Welcome, welcome to another installment of the Goddess Keys, where we unleash and unlock the tools and the jewels to support us with returning back to sovereignty, back to a full embodiment of our goddesshood. And I'm Heather Amunet Archer, and today we are going to talk about how the Earth became a prison planet. I feel like in the Ascension community, starseed community, light worker community, what have you, however you identify, you've heard of this concept of Earth being a prison planet. And I'm sure you've felt it energetically, because a lot of times you know that you're here to liberate your consciousness, activate your DNA, and support the planet with this collective shift that we're going through. But today we're going to take a deep dive into how the Earth became imprisoned. Who are the wardens? What's the deal with it? Who is the mysterious they? And we're going to try to get to the crux of how this imprisonment goes down. And this is a very nebulous topic because we're talking about unseen, non-physical forces, right? And so when things are hidden, when things are not seen, when veils are around us, then a lot of deception can take place. You can think you see something, but you're not quite sure. You can think you feel something, but you're not quite sure. And this is how this whole phenomenon of like gaslighting goes on as we see it in the physical plane, right? So getting a little bit more of the nitty-gritty details around what prison planet Earth looks like what are the details of it, might support us on our journey as we embrace and embody our sovereignty and our liberation. Okay, and so let's get into it, right? I'm going to be reading from a couple of sources, and I'm just going to also be commenting. But the first thing I want to say is I make it really clear on my platform that we are activating our own goddess codes, okay? There's been a lot of deceptions on planet Earth to get us to look at power outside of ourselves, to see us as less powerful than certain non-physical beings. And this is a huge part of the energy harvesting trap of the false matrix that we are deconstructing at this time, okay? And this is going to be the crux of what we explore today. All right. So I'm going to be reading part of an article from Aligning with Earth, which I'm going to put below. And then I also have some stuff from Wikipedia and that sort of thing as well. And I'm just going to also channel what is coming through from my I Am presence and my Red Nation's ancestors at this time. Okay. So it says the cosmic unconscious revealed some interesting facts about the lifetimes of Buddha and Jesus. As Buddha biologically ascended about 34,000 years ago, the kumaras fully infected the genetic patterning of the human form. So let's pause there. Let's break down this kumaras. What are the kumaras? Because that kind of sounds familiar, like we've heard of those terms possibly in the New Age spiritual movement. So before I go any further with the story, let's just break down what kumara means. Okay, so there is some kind of an ascended master dude by the name of Lord Sanat Kumara. And it says Lord Sanat Kumara is an quote-unquote advanced being at the 9th level of initiation who is regarded as the quote-unquote Lord or Regent of Earth and humanity. Lord of Earth. That's weird. Lord of humanity. Did you guys know that Lord Sanat Kumara was the Lord of humanity? And is thought to be the head of the spiritual hierarchy of Earth who dwells in Shambhala. Now, I know y'all have heard of Shambhala. A lot of times they connect Shambhala to the crown chakra. to this state of enlightenment. You may have even felt like you were supposed to be reaching some kind of a state of Shambhala in your ascension path. And it says Shambhala is also known as the city of Enoch. Shambhala is said by the adherents to the ascended master teachings to be a floating city manifested on the etheric plane somewhere above the Gobi Desert in the borderlands of Mongolia. The Great White Brotherhood is a spiritual, quote-unquote, fraternity of ascended beings, including Lord Sanat Kumara, long since dedicated to the eventual salvation of mankind and the establishment of divine law, again, in this three-dimensional reality. I'm sorry for being so sarcastic, y'all, but how could I not read it? How could I read it and not be sarcastic, right? I don't know. So I have heard about this whole Great White Brotherhood, which is just like spooky. Now, granted, I am embodying the incarnation of a Afro-Indigenous woman who grew up in the United States. So when I hear Great White Brotherhood, I do not feel safe. And I do not feel like that's connected to my evolution. Okay, so I've heard about this concept of the Great White Brotherhood in lots of different New Age teachings, and I've always kind of like rolled my eyes. And I don't know if y'all have seen like a lot of those Ascended Master drawings. Why are they always like white with blonde hair? Like, it just doesn't make sense, you know? And, you know, some of y'all might be on this ascension path and are really trying to clear up karma. And when you try to clear up karma, one of the first things, you know, you start doing your research on the internet and learning about karma clearing, you're going to come across some language around the karmic board. And the karmic board is full of ascended masters and the Great White Brotherhood who are supposed to help you clear karma. But we're gonna reserve a space of curiosity for that and to see if that's actually true. I'll do some more content on the karmic board. I have some things to share regarding that, but yeah. Just for now, keep in mind that Lord Sanat Kumara is associated with the Great White Brotherhood, a fraternity of ascended beings, and is also connected with the karmic board, okay? So that's one place where I found kumaras. And then there's another place where it's more in the Hindu teachings. It says the kumaras are 4 sages or rishis in Hinduism who roam the universe as children. They are described as the first mind-born creations and sons of the creator god Brahma. Born from Brahma's mind, the 4 kumaras undertook lifelong vows of celibacy against the wishes of their father. They are said to wander through the materialistic and spiritualistic universe without any desire but the purpose of teaching. All 4 brothers studied Vedas from their childhood and always traveled together. Okay, seems harmless enough, you know. So that's what, you know, Google says about the kumaras. But this article from Aligning with Earth, and these things are like channeled. Usually, I think this one is channeled from like the Great Central Sun. But a lot of these channelings come from Earth, or like the plant life or the nature kingdoms. So I'm not going to say like, hey, take all of this as being bond, but, you know, just consider that this is a channeling coming from a nature-based consciousness. And Earth definitely wants to ascend, like, you know, for Earth or for beings in support of Earth to put out information counter to like her growth and ascension doesn't make a lot of sense, you know. But I mean, I'm just saying. So this is just some food for thought, right? So let's learn more about the kumaras. It says, as Buddha biologically ascended about 34,000 years ago, the kumaras fully infected the genetic patterning of the human form. This was not Buddha's fault. Okay, so they're saying that Buddha was the last ascension, the last person to ascend from planet Earth. But apparently when he ascended, these non-physical beings known as the kumaras infected the genetic patterning of humanity. Okay, let's find out why. It says the genetic material that he embodied did not allow for the entire unification of the unconscious planes of reality. Through the unconscious plane of reality, the 7 kumaras altered the human DNA to further manipulate and control humanity. Okay, let's see what this is about. As an initiate moves through their initiations in the ascension process, the archives of genetic material previously inaccessible becomes accessible. During this process, forces of the dark can manipulate or distort the genetic blueprint. This occurred during both Rama's and Buddha's biological ascensions during their respective incarnations. Very interesting. This is a very different perspective. In addition to manipulating the DNA during Buddha's lifetime, the 7 kumaras sealed the pathway to the 5th dimension following Buddha's ascension, such that no one has been able to ascend since. An aspect of Rama returned in the form of Jesus because not one of Buddha's disciples biologically ascended following Buddha's ascension, and Rama knew that something must have gone wrong. So let's pause for a second and let's just talk about ascension for just a second. The idea around ascension is this idea around evolution. This idea that as you live, you grow and evolve. And eventually you evolve out of the current dimension that you're living on the planet. And you keep exploring, you keep expanding. But they're saying that the last ascension took place after Buddha's ascension about 34,000 years ago. And then things were kind of sealed off. Okay, so then it became basically impossible to ascend because there was a genetic distortion in the DNA. Okay. Both Jesus and his 11 disciples came together with soul agreements to ascend as a group into the 5th dimension. So everybody talks about how Jesus came to be a savior and all that kind of stuff. So let's hear more about this. It says the ascension of Jesus and his disciples would have required the same genetic alteration that many ascending initiates are currently proceeding through upon the earth plane. So this just goes back to this idea that Jesus wasn't this God-like figure. Jesus basically had it encoded in his DNA to ascend. And he basically dedicated his life to ascension, but also being a teacher of ascension, showing people that, like the quote says in the Bible, all these things you can do too. I'm totally paraphrasing, but you know that quote where he's basically saying, other people will do greater things than I'm doing now. So he kind of saw himself as paving the way. And he wasn't trying to put himself above anyone else. Okay. And, so it says the ascension of Jesus and his disciples would have required the same genetic alteration that many ascending initiates are currently proceeding through upon the earth plane. These initiations would have, however, taken much longer due to the lack of photonic energy upon earth at that particular time in history. Okay, so let's think about it. We are moving into the orbit of what is known as the Great Central Sun, which is a very large magnetic force. It's already causing a lot of photonic energy to come onto the planet that hasn't been there for thousands upon thousands. I mean, a long time. When Jesus was incarnated, he did not have these same magnetic vibrations that he was operating within. Okay. He was also like around during the time of the age of Pisces, where the veil was really thick. Right now we're, in this age of Aquarius where the veil is really thin. So, the universal forces weren't as supportive to his ascension as they are now. Maybe if he were alive now, things might have been different for him. Who knows? Okay, so it says, we believe that Jesus made contact with a priest in Egypt that would have allowed both he and his disciples to utilize the pyramids to bring forth their respective ascensions. The 7 kumaras, who by this time in history had such control of the earth plane, prevented Jesus' ascension by adding karma to his unconscious, causing him to manifest his own crucifixion. The karma appears to be added to the unconscious planes of reality, and Jesus was unable to access those records to clear them fast enough to prevent his own annihilation. And so this is something else to consider. A lot of times people call Jesus an ascended master and whatnot. He didn't actually ascend. He was crucified. He was on an ascension path and he was an ascension teacher, but he got taken out way before he could fully activate his DNA and reach his full potential. And that was because of karmic transference, basically. The way that we hear about it in the third dimensional realm is that basically Jesus, had a lot of haters around him, right? And people betrayed him. And, basically he ended up being killed by the powers that were at that particular time. That's kind of how we hear the story in the third dimension. But if we peek beneath the surface and we, realize that everything is energy, energetically, what was happening in the etheric planes to manifest Jesus's crucifixion, according to this channeling, they're saying that there was karma that was put on Jesus that wasn't actually his, but he basically wasn't tapped into his unconscious mind enough to know that that was there and to be able to rectify that misinformation. And so, this is kind of goes into this idea of us being very powerful creators. And, whether or not we're conscious of beliefs, if these beliefs are within our subconscious, we can manifest them. And so this is why it's really important to integrate polarity and also to really understand what's happening with us on the unconscious realms and what's going on in our Akashic records, so we can just really make sure that we're not co-creating circumstances that are out of alignment with why we're truly here. Okay, it says So it says the karma appears to be added to the unconscious planes of reality, and Jesus was unable to access those records to clear them fast enough to prevent his own annihilation. And then it says, during his ascension, Buddha was used by the 7 kumaras to further distort the earth plane without his awareness. Although Buddha embodied the crystalline genetic blueprint and made his physical ascension into the 5th dimension, the blueprint was distorted in such a fashion that the conscious and unconscious planes of reality were not completely unified within his being. Okay, he did not integrate the polarity. He just didn't do it, It was upon the unconscious planes of reality that the Kumaras distorted the Buddhic plane during his ascension by twisting the planes in such a way that the Buddhic plane went from the conscious to the unconscious energy field upon earth. This was accomplished without Buddha's awareness. So this goes into this concept around the greater your light, the bigger your shadow. The more powerful you are as a light being, then if you don't have your full consciousness integrated into one consciousness, if your consciousness is split off, it doesn't matter how powerful and benevolent you are in the conscious realm, if your full consciousness isn't integrated, it can be used in ways that you're not aware of because you didn't integrate the polarities. Okay. And this is a big this is how like polarity has been used to imprison humanity, is because we haven't been able to do the polarity integration. And a lot of this is because a lot of the unconscious planes and the unconscious realms have, we haven't been fully aware of them. You know, we've been kept in the dark. We've been kept with veils over our eyes about the unconscious, the collective unconscious. You know, in astrology, you would call that the 12th house, the things that are unseen. And so because we haven't had that clarity around that, we've been able to be manipulated. Even the quote unquote best of us, Buddha, right? Buddha's shadow caused some pretty big distortions, you know, and that doesn't mean that we cancel Buddha, but it's a lesson for us to really think about. So this in particular is for folks who are really interested in embodying what is known as a bodhisattva, somebody who is here to activate their DNA and here to be like an impactful teacher to support with the collective, with this collective consciousness shift of humanity, right? If you feel that in your spirit that you're here to attain a certain level of mastery, this message is definitely for you. So they're going into some of the things that you might need to consider if you are seeking to attaining the state of the bodhisattva. Okay, so it says, in order to complete the state of the bodhisattva, all karma that exists upon the cosmic unconscious planes of reality must be released. So it is upon the cosmic unconscious planes that initiates will discover karma related to the 7 kumaras, which will be discussed below. So, you know, if that's your path, then that means you really do need to become adept at exploring your unconscious mind and integrating the shadow aspects of your unconscious mind. All right. So let's talk about this. It says, there are antichrist beings who have infected your creation and took energy without giving anything in return. These beings were sent here by other creator gods/goddesses within your godhead/goddess head. The kumaras are related to the destructive beings who have ruled your creation for eons of time. Much like your solar system, which became the prison camp for destructive souls within the 3rd and 5th dimensional universes, your creation, which contains dimensions 1 through 144, has also been used as the prison camp for destructive souls by all of the other 143 creations and creator gods/goddesses within your goddess head. Okay, so where can we see this in 3rd dimensional history? If we think about like Australia, you remember, I don't know if y'all learned this in your history books and stuff, but they used to say that like Australia was like known as like a place where they would like dump prisoners, right? And, you know, and then also at one point they said they said that they maybe used the Americas like that too. So this is just kind of talking about this on a much larger scale, like in a solar system, multidimensional scale. Okay. And so this is why we also need to use discernment when we're doing like ascended master channelings or we're connecting with different star systems, because it's very likely that these star systems that are like hovering over us and these like beings from different planets that are like hovering over us are doing so because they've kind of had their hands in the cookie jar of planet Earth, you know, maybe for self-serving means. Okay. And that's why like it seems like there's just a lot of like beings that are trying to make contact with Earth, because it's just like they're trying to meddle in Earth's affairs. But are they really like around to be helpful, or are they around to be self-serving in a way? Okay, that's just a question to explore. It says, the level of destruction throughout your creation is a direct result of an overabundance of destructive souls within your creation. Upon the cosmic unconscious plane, the records of how the destructive souls were infused into your creation is recorded. Much of this information had been destroyed or hidden over time, but now this is in the process of being repaired, so that the distortion and destruction can be reversed within your creation. The records clearly show that Lord Sananda, who has held the position of cosmic Christ, Lord Metatron, who has held the position of cosmic Lord of the angels, and Lord Averill, who has held the position of cosmic Lord, were given the role of being the cosmic wardens to contain and control all of the destructive souls who have been added to your creation over time. Okay, that's a big mouthful. That's a lot to process. I know y'all have heard about Lord Sananda as being one of the ascended masters that we're supposed to kind of ask for help, according to the New Age spiritual movement. And Metatron, right? Can you think about like all the starseed channelers that you've heard channeling Metatron? Metatron says this about us ascending. Metatron says that. And, we've been talking a lot about angles on my channel and just looking at, how a lot of times angles have been utilized to energy harvest. And I just want you to take a moment to look at Metatron's cube and just see how many angles you see in there, I haven't heard of this guy, Lord Averill, though. So I don't know about him, but apparently he is Cosmic Lord. So I guess he's important. I guess he's kind of a big deal. Okay, the 7 kumaras. Those who have governed your creation have wanted to prevent ascension because ascension would allow the quote-unquote dark souls imprisoned here to escape. From this perspective, the kumaras were doing their job by lulling humanity to sleep in a mass conscious dream that would not permit them to evolve. So let's kind of take a deep dive with this. Okay, so basically, remember, Earth was supposed to be this like prison colony for all these like bad souls in the cosmos. Okay, so you just drop them off around Earth or the solar system around Earth, and it's kind of like, I guess, like a ghetto. Like, I'm just thinking about like if you go to like a really nice gated community, right? How like they're kind of super intense about like security and about like keeping things clean and tidy and all that kind of stuff. And if you look at any major city on the planet, you're going to find the really nice neighborhoods that are going to be a little bit more highly policed, but then there's always going to be the ghetto or the hood, right? And there's a lot less maintenance going on, a lot less trash cans, more graffiti, et cetera, et cetera. And it's this whole idea of like, in order for one place to be nice and pristine, another place has to be trashed. So let's just think about that on a cosmic level. This channeling is basically saying that like Earth and the solar system surrounding Earth or orbiting Earth has been that cosmic trash can. It's pretty interesting, and it just makes you think, because it's like you have those memes, where they talk about like Earth is a ghetto and all that kind of stuff. But like, there might be a ring to it, but that doesn't mean because Earth is inherently bad. It's just been very poorly treated by these beings. So just think about that. If you're listening to these starseed channelings and Arcturian channelings and Sirian channel and Pleiadian channelings, a lot of these star systems have been at cause for like projecting all their junk onto us. Might not want to listen to those beings. You might want to just like give them the side eye and send their karma back to them. Okay, so now we go into more detail about the 7 kumaras. The 7 kumaras have controlled 7 planes of reality upon earth. The planes are, respectively, the plane of lust, the plane of greed, the plane of judgment, the plane of pain, and the plane of suffering, and the plane of death, and the plane of fear. These planes are lower in vibration than the astral planes and are equivalent to an ongoing purgatory or hell in nature. So I know that that's one thing that we think about, right? Because it's like Christianity and a lot of like other organized religions, they talk about this like form of hell, you know, like it's like, are you going to go to heaven or are you going to go to hell once you pass away, you know? And, you know, when we get into the New Age movement, we start, you know, questioning whether or not hell exists, or like maybe hell is a state of mind or that sort of thing. Well, this channeling is saying that hell are, you know, is like, these are non-physical planes that do exist. And we're going to learn more about them, okay? So it says about 34,000 years ago, as the 7 kumaras accessed the human genetic records, they took all of the information any soul incarnate in human form had accrued in prior incarnations, and all of the information inherent in the human genetic encoding. And I just want to pause here to take a mindful breath. Taking a deep breath in, holding, and releasing. I was starting to feel my chest start to tighten up. You know, it's a lot of information to take in. And, you know, parts of your soul might be triggered by, you know, this conversation that we're about to go more in depth with. Because this is like very personal stuff, you know, and this is very much caught up in a lot of the wounds that we have experienced on this earthly plane. So I just want to hold space for that. And I want to invite you, like, if you do start feeling this shortness of breath, to like take care of yourself and take mindful breaths. And I'm going to be doing that throughout this reading because I was already feeling like a tenseness, you know, coming up. I've been doing a lot of alchemizing related to these 7 planes, but you know, this is like generations upon generations of stuff that I'm alchemizing. So I'm not, you know, I'm not fully alchemized yet. But yeah, so I just wanted to acknowledge that this is some heavy stuff that I'm about to go into. So take care of yourself. Maybe drink some water. Or maybe you have to pause this and just like listen to it in chunks. Because we're about to go in, y'all. Okay? So buckle up. Or not, you know, up to you. Okay. So in having a hold of on all information, the kumaras took control of the human experience. Without information, humanity went deeper into fear because they no longer remembered how to survive on their own. Okay, so basically they're talking about the fallen consciousness, and that basically, I mean, we know that at some point humanity had a more elevated consciousness. We were able to embody our goddesshood more. Something happened. What happened? Where did the information go? Universal law says that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. So that our knowledge hasn't been destroyed. Our consciousness hasn't been destroyed. It's there somewhere. Where is it? You know, so just keep that in mind. Like, you know, a lot of times when we think about, oh yeah, we used to have this sort of consciousness and now we don't. It's like, no, it's there somewhere. Where is it? And that's what we're going to get to the source of today. It says, in having hold on all information, the kumaras took control of the human experience. Without information, humanity went deeper into fear because they no longer remembered how to survive on their own. Information can be likened to a software and the body to hardware in a computer comparison of the human form. The kumaras seized all of the software and left the body in fear that it could no longer survive because the body no longer remembered what to do in order to sustain itself. Once the kumaras had seized control of the genetic information, they then utilized this information to quote-unquote bargain or negotiate with the souls incarnate in human form. Such bargains look something like this. You, as a soul incarnate, need to remember how to physically survive, or how to make love in order to produce, or how to manifest your dream. So we, the kumaras, will help you survive, or reproduce, or manifest your dream in exchange for the ownership of your soul. In so doing, the kumaras eventually owned or possessed every soul incarnate upon earth. In their ownership, they have had free reign to direct the human experience in whatever drama that they wished to experience upon the earth plane. So what they did was they siphoned all of the energy and all of the genetic information, and basically it was like, we'll sell it back to you. We'll sell it to you for as long as we get a cut, but then, this is where that whole deal with the devil thing kind of comes into play. And, I'm just kind of envisioning this whole puppet master kind of situation going on, right? It says, these 7 planes are in the process of being removed from Earth in order to assist more of humanity in taking their ascension. Each initiate will have to release their own agreements and retrieve their own soul fragments trapped upon their many planes of reality to become fully free of their influence within their life and their life's manifestations. Note, okay, this is an important note, y'all, listen up. Because y'all might be getting a little excited and oh, hell no, I want all my stuff back. Okay, yes, but listen to this. It says, we do not recommend traveling to any of these 7 planes during meditation or dream time. The energy from one's light body will be vampirized because each of these planes are like quicksand and take chi very rapidly. Okay? And so this is, so what can we do about that? It says, instead, allow the quote-unquote order of Dari to assist you in retrieving whatever soul-related fragments you have upon any of these planes of reality and reunite them with your form. So there's supposed to be this order of Dari that is supposed to be helping out with this ascension back into, or alignment back with the great central sun. You might be feeling a little weird about putting trust and faith into another order, especially as you're kind of detaching and detoxing from certain false gods and stuff like that. So my suggestion is maybe you don't include the order of Dar, or maybe you do. I don't know. Pray on it, figure out what works for you. But you can also at least start reclaiming soul fragments by revoking soul contracts, vows, oaths, and agreements. That's one big step that you can do to reclaim or retrieve what has been lost. That's something that you can do, and you can activate your goddess conscious and do that. So let's get into these Kumara planes, okay? So the first plane is the Kumara of lust. The Kumara of lust has owned all of the information on sexual energy flow and reproduction, not only for humanity at large, but for Mother Earth as well. Upon the plane of lust, you will find ongoing sexual fantasies of all kinds, including very abusive forms such as sadomasochism and bondage. Upon this plane, initiates will also find any fractured parts of their own soul or personality related to the pain of sexual abuse or humiliation. During the ascension process, these fractured parts of the soul and personality are retrieved and reunited and reintegrated with the form. The use of sexual energy to abuse, control, humiliate, or destroy is a distortion of the original purpose of this energy. Sexual energy is the creative force behind all of creation. Sexual energy, when shared with loving intent, amplifies the love between the beloveds, which fuels whatever plane of reality they are upon. If they are upon the physical plane, shared sexual energy supports the creative flow of the planet that they are incarnate upon, as well as their own personal life manifestations. If they were upon a non-physical plane, their sexual interplay would bathe the entire cosmos with love and fuel each of the creators with their cosmos. Upon the plane of lust, sexual excitation is not utilized to fuel love, creation, and expansion, but rather to leech energetic flow from all who make love. Many may wonder why the act of making love leaves them tired and in need of sleep. This is because the energy generated in the act of making love is often vampirized by the kumara of lust and the plane of lust, especially if one tunes into the plane of lust to act out their sexual fantasies. There are many upon the earth plane who rely upon the kumara of lust to manipulate others. One place that such experiences can be readily seen is within your pornographic industries. Sex industry workers rely upon the kumara of lust to perpetuate their income and business. The kumara of lust causes the sexual excitation between the sex worker and their audience, but at the expense of leeching the chi or energy from everyone present. Okay, this is, and no judgment. We're not, this is a non-judgmental space, but just like really consider that, a lot of porn and stuff, it's like a portal, and it's a portal into this kumara plane. And it's just like, it's really a game of energy, and it's like, where do you want to be giving your energy to, because that chi or energy being given to these planes could be utilized for a lot of other things, and so it's just something to consider. It says, as initiates release all agreements with the kumara of lust, they will be able to repair their Akashic record archives and bring forth all the information necessary to sustain their sexual energy flow of their own accord. Once accomplished, the expression of lovemaking will feel different, for it will become based upon real love rather than lust, magic, glitter, or illusion. During their lovemaking, ascending initiates' hearts chakras unite, bathing the entire region in which they live in a beautiful pink-white light that energizes everything around them along with their forms and physical plane manifestations. Okay, so it says, we would like to speak about initiates who continue to be sexual with others who are of a lower vibration or initiatory level. All right, y'all, listen up. When you make love in human form, you open your energy field and chakras to the energy field of another. If the other individual has not cleared their karma with such beings as the kumara of lust, the kumara of lust can enter your field and leech your chi to such an extent that such an initiate may be unable to move forward in their own ascension or may end up moving backwards in vibration. It is possible at this time in history to ascend. It is also possible to slide backwards in one's ascension if an initiate is not careful in their interactions. Okay, so it's just something to keep in mind. And inviting you to take a deep breath in, holding, and releasing. Okay, and setting an intention to revoke soul contracts, vows, oaths, and agreements with this plane. We're moving on to the next kumara, the kumara of pain and the kumara of suffering. We will speak about these two planes together because they are so closely related. The kumara of pain and the kumara of suffering have made possible the experience of pain and suffering in human form. The experience of pain and suffering have become both emotional and physical in nature upon earth. Upon the plane of pain, initiates will find ongoing painful sagas of all kinds, from physical accidents to painful rejections. Upon the plane of suffering, initiates will find ongoing sagas of suffering, from brutal torture to suffering in the grief of the loss of a loved one, or the physical suffering experienced in an illness. Upon the plane of pain or suffering, Initiates will also find parts of their own inner child and soul that have fractured in their painful experiences upon earth. It is the plane of pain that locks the pain into the painful soul or life experiences. It is the plane of suffering that locks the experience of suffering into one's life experience. When painful memories or memories of suffering go unreleased, they are destined to repeat again in one's life. In the ascension process, fractured parts of the personality, inner child, and soul are recovered from the plane of pain and the plane of suffering and are reunited and reintegrated into form. It is for this reason that the ascension process can be so painful for those who feel deeply. And this is something, in the Galactic Black Rose Patreon tier that I have, I've created a series of meditations as it relates to connecting and healing the inner children and the inner family. And, for the folks who are a part of that tier, first of all, hi, hello. You may have experienced certain parts of your inner child being in some of these planes that I'm describing, okay, these hell realms. And that's by design. A lot of times our society is designed to fracture the inner child, and to wound humanity at a very early age to keep this whole energy harvesting cycle going. Okay. So if you've been having some issues around inner child healing, first of all, move past just healing the inner child and think about the inner children that you need to heal. So I have a couple of meditations, one where you're literally going through each year of your life, basically from age 0 to age 40, retrieving soul fragments. And you may find some pieces of your soul in certain planes that I'm describing. Okay. And it's really important to retrieve these fragments, so that we can embody more sovereignty and more integration. And so we can ascend our consciousness and get them out of these hell realms. Okay. Because this ain't cool. This is not cool, but we gotta reclaim ourselves. Okay. It says it is often the kumara of pain or the kumara of suffering who threatens initiates not to proceed upon their spiritual journey. The kumara of pain or the kumara of suffering often threaten initiates with visions of physical accidents or emotional rejections coming from loved ones. If initiates believe in the vision presented, they may actually go on to create it within their own life experience. Okay, this is going back to that whole crucifixion karma with Jesus Christ, how they put certain stuff on him energetically to have him manifest his own crucifixion. Okay. As initiates take control of their energy field and order such beings as the kumara of pain or the kumara of suffering out of their presence, such visions will leave along with the perpetrator. As initiates transcend bodhisattva level, all agreements with the kumara of pain and the kumara of suffering are released, and all beliefs in the experience of pain or suffering along with it. Once the belief in pain and suffering is released, initiates will no longer create painful experiences of either physical or emotional nature. So yeah, some of us have been programmed to just think that pain and suffering is a part of life. But was it always a part of life? And where did that program come from? And how is the manifestation of pain and suffering created? These are just questions to think about. Okay, the kumara of death. Oh wait, before then, let's take another deep breath. Hold. And release. Okay. The kumara of death has created the experience of death upon the earth plane. Upon the plane of death, initiates will discover all experiences of death recorded that have ever occurred within their genetic memories or soul memories upon the earth plane. The plane of death contains ongoing dramas of death of all kinds, including brutal murders, suicide, painful accidents, death by torture, death by illness, or death in one's sleep. The kumara of death generally makes agreements with humans to cause the aging, decay, and eventual death within their life experience. Such agreements bring forth whatever form of death that the soul wishes to experience. If the soul is in an aged body and is unable to die, the kumara of death will leach the chi of the aged form to such a degree that the death can be brought forth into physical manifestation. It is also the kumara of death who perpetuates the fear of death upon earth or within an initiate's life experience. It is the kumara of death who often enters an initiate's field, bringing forth visions of death to put them in fear or cause them not to move forward upon their ascension path. As initiates learn to take charge of their aura and order such beings out of their field, the fearful vision leaves along with the perpetrator. When the kumara of death is present, initiates may feel icy cold. The icy cold feeling is caused by death pictures that have come up into one's field. Death pictures are black in color, and if one were to look at these pictures themselves, they would see experiences of dying frozen in time. Because they are quote-unquote frozen, so to speak, the energy no longer moves in the pictures themselves, which gives such energy the icy cold feeling. Oftentimes, when initiates first learn to move the Kundalini energy system in their field, many death pictures come up at once, and they begin to feel icy cold or fearful. The death pictures are the result of how the Kundalini has been utilized for the past 34,000 years of human history, during which the Kundalini has rarely risen except upon death. It is the Kundalini that rises as the experience of death is set in motion and collects all of the emotional memories of the lifetime as the soul leaves the form. If the initiates experience fear or death pictures in learning to move the Kundalini or in reading this material, it is recommended that they ground such pictures or energy into the center of the earth and out of their auric field and order the kumara of death out of their presence. As this is accomplished, both the fear and the sensation of feeling icy cold will leave along with the death pictures and the kumara of death itself. So let's focus in on that for a second. Let's just focus in on grounding our energy field, connecting with our grounding chakras, connecting with the great central sun, the aurora frequency coming up from the earth, picturing beautiful colors of pastel rainbow. And just imagine that you have a grounding cord, and that grounding cord is just able to send down whatever energy is not in alignment with life and regeneration. Just sending it down, taking a deep breath in, holding, and releasing. It says, as initiates transcend bodhisattva, they will transcend their belief in decay and death. As all beliefs in death and contracts with the kumara of death are released, initiates will no longer create the experience of aging, death, or decay within their life experience. All right, next plane, the kumara of fear. The kumara of fear has perpetuated the experience of fear upon the earth plane. Upon the plane of fear, initiates will discover ongoing fearful experiences being acted out, such as being chased by that which wishes to destroy you, to standing frozen and unable to speak in front of a large audience, to being abducted by others, to waking up completely paralyzed from an accident. Initiates will also discover parts of their own soul, inner child, or personality trapped upon this plane of reality, which fractured during fearful experiences within their current or past life memories. It is also the kumara of fear who often threatens initiates with fearful visions about potential future events. As initiates learn to control their boundaries and take charge of their field by ordering any being who does not support their highest good out of their presence, such visions will leave along with the perpetuator. By Bodhisattva level, all aspects of one's soul and personality which have been trapped upon the plane of fear are integrated, and all agreements with the kumara of fear are released. In so doing, initiates fully transcend their belief in fear and no longer create fearful experiences in their lives. All right, taking a deep breath in, holding, and releasing. Okay, the Kumara of Judgment. The Kumara of Judgment has perpetuated judgment upon the earth plane. Judgment and judgmental thoughts perpetuate competition. Competition is the result of the belief that one is better than another or less than another in worth and value. The Kumara of Judgment has perpetuated competition in all forms. Competition between races, competition between men and women, competition between families, competition between friends or co-workers, and competition between countries. The competition perpetuated by the Kumara of Judgment has resulted in war, poverty, hunger, and mass annihilation within the human experience and mass conscious dream. Upon the plane of judgment, initiates will find ongoing sagas of criticism and judgment of all kinds, from being fired from a job due to failing, to a parent belittling a child, to a loved one rejecting another because they are not enough. Upon the plane of judgment, initiates will also find that all wars ever experienced upon earth are continuing to be fought. Initiates will find that parts of their own personality, inner child, or soul, which have been fractured in the experience of being judged or belittled, have been trapped upon the plane of judgment. In the ascension process, these fractured parts of oneself are retrieved and reintegrated into one's personality and form a little bit at a time. It is often the Kumara of Judgment who enters one's field with belittling thoughts of self or others. As initiates take control of their boundaries and order such beings and thoughts out of their presence, the thoughts that perpetuate judgment leave simultaneously. As initiates transcend bodhisattva, they move beyond judgment altogether. Maintaining a state of harmlessness requires that no judgmental thought be entertained by an initiate, because it is through judgmental thoughts that one initiate curses another or perpetuates harmfulness energetically. So that's a hard one. There's a lot of what I just read is a lot of stuff that we've just been kind of trained to or programmed to project out into society. And, one of the meditations that I have on the Galactic Black Rose, we do a whole inner parent or inner family meditation. And it's really interesting when you see some of the programs that you got through your parents, and a lot of times it's coming from the planes of judgment. All right, taking a deep breath in, holding, and releasing. All right. The Kumara of Greed. The Kumara of Greed controls every act of manifestation upon the earth plane. It is with the Kumara of Greed that any initiate must bargain to bring any desired vision to manifestation prior to completing bodhisattva level. It may surprise our readership to understand that any great quote-unquote leader, whether they be an author, director of a corporation, president of a country, or a spiritual guru, has made agreements with the Kumara of Greed to manifest their fame and fortune. The reason for this is that all manifestation has been controlled by the Kumara of Greed for the past 34,000 years of human history. It is the Kumara of Greed who often causes a big stumbling block for those upon the spiritual path. So often, difficulty with manifestation comes hand in hand with those who are committed to their spiritual journey. The reason for this is that initiates who are devoted to their own unfolding refuse to bargain with the Kumaras for anything, even monetary needs. It says, in Asurana's case, her ongoing difficulties with manifestation which have been more than a decade-long problem, began as she began her spiritual quest. And who can relate to that, right? Like, it's like as soon as you start like really trying to devote yourself to the spiritual path, then it's like almost like you have to experience poverty a lot of times. It says, we will share with others what our translator discovered within her own journey. The kumara of greed can only affect one's ability to manifest one's vision when an initiate is in a state of fear. In fear, initiates go into a downward spiral in vibration. This allows the kumaras to vampirize the initiate's creative energy flow. Asarana gradually learned to surrender all of her financial needs to her guidance and I am presence and stop worrying. The more she surrendered, the less she was in fear. Outside of fear, the kumara of greed had no power to prevent her from manifesting all of her needs easily. And this is why we deprogram fear. We constantly work on this. And this is why we also get rid of a lot of the etheric implants and machinery that keep us in fear. And we transcend the thought forms, because it really does lessen the hold of these entities that are trying to control our fate. It says, we share this for many initiates who may not complete the bodhisattva initiation for many years. As initiates surrender their financial woes to their I am presence, the I am presence will always make sure that they have enough to fulfill their soul's purpose and meet their needs. This is true, y'all. I can attest to this. Upon the plane of greed, initiates will find ongoing dramas of both wealth, takeovers, and fame, as well as poverty and homelessness. Initiates will also find that parts of their own inner child, personality, or soul that have fractured in past life or present life experiences of poverty or hunger. These fractured parts of self-care are retrieved and reintegrated within the personality during the ascension process. As initiates embody bodhisattva level, all agreements with the kumara of greed are released. In so doing, initiates move beyond the belief in greed altogether, and thereby no longer create experiences of either hoarding or poverty within their life. So those are the 7 kumaras, and that's where a lot of humanity's energy and consciousness has been siphoned. And in summary, the goal now is to reclaim our energy from these planes, okay? And, when you start feeling the emotions of fear or greed or judgment, or you start worrying about death or pain or suffering or lust, that kind of thing, really working on detaching yourself from these planes. And I know, it's going to take time. It's a process. It's going to happen in layers. But I am posting a soul retrieval declaration on my Patreon. It's pretty lengthy, but it's going to go through revoking the vows, oaths, and agreements made with the 7 Kumara planes. And there'll be a little, just a little ceremony that you can do to kind of tie this all together. And I'll put that on the Patreon. So consider checking that out. And we're going to talk more about how these false gods and these non-physical entities have been manipulating and pulling the puppet strings on humanity, and what we can do about it to raise our vibration and break these cords of attachment, because we can do it. We just need this information, though, So I'm hoping that this information is received with an open heart and an open mind, and of course with a spirit of discernment always. And I'm sending you so much love, joy, peace, prosperity, and abundance until we meet again.